Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Tequila Chats. I am in one of my favorite stores in the world, if not my favorite store. You guys know how much I like my shoes, and I've never found a pair of shoes here that I didn't like. And I am most importantly with my favorite person in the entire universe, beyond the world, Mr. Jay Gordon, innovator, trailblazer. JJ, thank you very much for taking the time.
My pleasure.
I know you're busy. The story's rocking it. It's crazy.
It's been good.
By the way,
Not
it
gonna
took
lie.
literally like an hour to kick everybody out of here.
We
This
did
was
have to kick everybody out.
absolutely ridiculous.
There's some angry shoppers.
There are right now, but
It's
they're
okay.
they are like doing their
okay.
thing out there. But
It's okay.
thank you very much. Thank you
Not
for
at
your
all.
time, JJ.
Great
Thank
to
you
see
for
you.
hosting us
Of course.
here in LA. This is another amazing visit in LA. So
Yes.
happy to be here.
Me
So
too.
welcome to Tequila Chats. I know you've been watching
you.
them all,
I have.
minute after minute,
have.
all of them.
I have.
And so you know what the deal is with that. We're going to have a nice glass of tequila, although we already started.
We did.
Because we need to make sure that it was good product.
Quality testing.
Exactly.
Yes.
And then we're going to talk kind of like about business. You know, I think, and I said this to you before, I think that we are very good at putting all of the shiny stuff out front. I think it's a product of social media in particular. And it's great because I think that creates inspiration, it shows success. But I think the most interesting thing in business is what goes behind, like all the stuff that people don't see. That's what adds color, and I think that's what people need to hear. And so that's what this is all about. And so thank you
Great.
for sharing that.
Not at all.
Yes. So let me introduce the tequila that we already
Please.
started drinking.
Yes, my
So
friend.
actually, this was somebody in your neighborhood. It was this liquor store. Remember the name of the liquor store? Bethany Ovan, something like that. I think it was off La Cienega, right around the corner from Zinc. We asked this guy. He was really knowledgeable.
San Vicente.
In San Vicente,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
off San Vicente. I think it's Ovan, Levin, or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I will remember the name
We'll
of the
go.
liquor store.
San
yes.
Vicente and Melrose.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
A beautiful store, really cool stuff. And he recommended this. It's called El Tequileño, a
Delicious.
small batch tequila. This one happens to be a double wood reposado.
Let me try it again just to make sure.
Yeah, try it. Let's try it again.
Just to make sure.
It's delicious. It's actually a very specific small batch. I can see. Bethany, do you mind if I borrow my glasses? Guys, I'm sorry. I'm super. At my age, I turn blind.
29?
You know, it is and I'm going to most likely kill the name of this specific line, the Sazerac Select. This tequila spends 2 years on an American oak and then 4 months on a French oak. And so you actually can see those very nice.
That was like my college career.
Exactly, that's what it is. Delicious. I think you need a little bit more. And so, salud. Let's do a little bit more for myself. And JJ, I'm a big fan of the idea of the origin story. I think that who you are, how you grew up, really, in my opinion, informs everything that you do. So tell us about your origin story. Where does Jay Gordon, the legend, comes from?
So in the late 1800s. So I grew up in Boston.
Uh-huh.
The first bodega was in Boston. We opened 16 years ago. And I have two partners and friends, Dan and Oliver, and we all still run the store together, the whole company. And it's been, as you've seen, it's been a fun, wild ride.
Yes.
Lots of ups and downs, but way more ups than downs.
But I want us to go beyond, like where you come from? I know you're Boston-based, right?
Yep, born in Boston.
Yeah.
Mostly lived just outside of Fenway, growing up, in a fantastic little tiny neighborhood where all my friends were, in the same 2 blocks, and we could take the subway everywhere, and it was great. It was a really idyllic, perfect place to grow up with a lot of freedom. My parents were very, they were very open to us doing our own thing. They trusted us. Yeah. When my dad had a thing where you could mess up, but you had to mess up at home. You couldn't mess up somewhere else.
I love that.
You want to drink? You want to do whatever? Do it here.
Do it at home, yeah.
And he meant it.
Yeah.
And then we spent a lot of time in Jamaica when I was a kid. My dad was sort of crazy about Jamaica, and we spent a lot of time there and had a house there.
Didn't you guys go like once for vacation and then you ended up with like a home?
Yeah.
Or something like
Yeah,
that? He
for
went out
8
for
years.
out for coffee and he came
My
back with a
parents
home?
went for their honeymoon, and then they had some flight canceled, and he was like, "Where else are you flying today?" And they were at the airport. It was before the internet. So they said, well, we have a flight here, we have a flight. And so they wound up going to Jamaica. And then we went for a family trip for I think for Christmas.
Yeah.
It was like a 2-week trip. And he wound up buying the house that we stayed in. And it was an old sugar plantation house on the water. And Jamaicans don't want to live on the water. You want to live in the hills because it's cooler and whatever.
Yeah, yes.
So,
yeah, the breeze, yeah.
But it was a spectacular house, and
Yeah.
and we had a great time. We had a really cool time living there.
But I think what is cool about your parents are both, and I've, I met both of them, incredible people.
Yeah.
Both
Great
very
people.
accomplished.
Yep.
Both very hardworking. What do you think you got exactly out of your parents?
My
that
dad
resonated.
was up for anything. He was very, he was all about adventure and trying new things.
Yeah.
I remember I called him. I was driving cross country with my cousin and her friend, and I was in Santa Fe, and I randomly got offered a job in a ceramic studio. It's a long friggin' story. And I called my
I want to
dad.
hear this story.
I called my dad and said, "What do you think?" And
Yeah.
he's like, "I'll send you a credit card. I think you should stay." And I had already signed up for some summer school classes at Harvard because I needed extra credits because
Yeah.
I was having some academic issues.
Hey,
But he
it
didn't
happens.
care. He was just like,
Yeah.
stay and do your thing. And
Yeah.
he was very, just a very adventurous, accepting person. And his thing was, he said always, like, you can learn from everybody. In a lot of cases, it's you learn what not to do, but you can learn something from everybody.
Yeah.
And he was just,
Actually, that's pretty wise, by the way.
yeah,
that really
he's a
is
really
pretty
great guy. And he walked it. Like, he didn't, it was,
Yeah.
he was a great guy and a great dad. I couldn't have asked for better. And my mom was more by the book, very academic.
Yes.
She was graduated college at 16. She was an attorney. She was a partner in a law firm from a very young age. And really, the women in our family are much smarter than the men. We found that out.
Usually,
We found-
that is actually the case.
It probably is.
Yeah,
usually
in
the
every
case.
family, I
but
would
even
say.
more so for ours.
Yeah.
We had there's a long tradition of getting kicked out of college for the guys in our family.
Yeah.
Josh now.
And so let me ask you when, because I want to talk to you about, you were already alluding to Bodega, but what was the reaction of both of your parents when you came up with this idea for this store?
They were not crazy about the whole idea.
Were they
I remember
confused or
they were
or not-
confused
or
about
not
the
happy?
hidden entrance part of the store, about
Yeah.
not advertising and putting it out there,
Yeah.
because they knew I was sort of already working in marketing and I had that background. And then they, I remember my dad was across the street from the store in Boston before we opened, as we were doing construction, and there was a group of kids looking for the store, and I wasn't talking to them, and it was driving him crazy. I could see his veins pulsing from across the street.
Yeah.
But that wasn't about it. It was about the adventure of finding it. It
Yeah.
wasn't about telling people it's here.
Yes.
And the first, obviously, the store in Boston was pre-social media and everything else.
Yes.
So it was really, it really was word of mouth.
It really was. 'Cause
Now
that's how I
it's
found out
not,
about it.
you
That's
know.
how we met.
Yeah.
It was word of mouth. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Which
But-
is fun.
But Bodega was pretty trailblazing. I think that right now, obviously, there are a lot of different brands that are doing similar kind of like delivery services you do. But I think back in the day, you literally were it. Where did the idea of Bodega come from?
Oliver and I used to work together, and we used to joke, and the joke sort of transformed with the addition of Dan into sort of where we are now, with picking up all these brands, independent brands that no one else had. I used to drive to New York when we first opened. I would drive to New York. We were closed on Tuesdays.
Mhm.
And I would drive to New York every Monday night and have guys meet me. There was a store called Recon on
Yes.
Lexington. And there was a really nice guy named Maurice who would let me hang out behind the counter. And guys would show up with trash bags of hoodies and T-shirts and everything. And I would restock the store every week.
Yeah.
That's before we were very footwear centric. And
Yeah.
then we've got our Nike account, our Tier 0 Nike account 10 months in. And then
That
the
is
footwear,
crazy.
the
That's a very, very short period to get that
very
level
short.
of account.
We were very lucky. We got a lot of really good press from the beginning. And it was a lot of fun. And Boston. Boston's not, it's a small city.
Yes, it is. We all know each other. We all know
Yeah.
everything that is up. But where did the idea of this almost like a speakeasy concept? Yeah, because the store's been like you said, for 16 years.
Yeah.
Back in the day, that wasn't necessarily. Now there are all
No,
sorts of
there are.
variations to that. So that was pretty innovative at the
Yeah,
time.
we discussed it from the beginning, and originally we wanted to put a Chinese restaurant in the front,
Mm-hmm.
and then we went through a lot of different transitions
Yes.
because Oliver's parents had Chinese restaurants up in New Hampshire, um, but we had all different ideas, and I don't remember how we settled on Bodega, but I know Oliver had done a mock-up of Bodega Sport clothing that was like basically Polo Sport with the polo crossed out and Bodega written in.
Did you produce it? Did you get a
I
letter?
don't know, we have gotten plenty of letters through the years, but that wasn't one of them. That was the beginning. And I don't know if that's where the Bodega came from, but it certainly might have been. Oliver's a idea machine.
Yeah.
And we're very lucky. I mean, Oliver, Dan, and I have very different and very complementary strengths.
Well, you have a very nice synergy.
Yeah.
You guys really
We're
complement each other. You
yeah.
know, they always say like you work with people that complement. You
Yeah.
guys really got very lucky. in
No,
that
we're very
sense.
lucky, and they're great partners, and they're better friends.
Yeah.
And it's been, it's been an adventure.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
for those of you who don't know Bodega is a store originally based out of Boston, and it was kind of like a speakeasy business. You enter through an actual bodega, like a Latino-inspired store, and then in the back there was the Snapple machine.
A vending machine.
How
right.
90s is that?
Yeah.
The Snapple
So
machine?
we went to our beverage distributor and said we need to find the oldest machine you have.
Yeah.
And he found this old Snapple machine.
It's so funny.
And then Dan and I wound up attaching that to a sliding door.
Yeah.
And there's a long story behind that because our neighbors thought we were breaking into an ATM. There's smoke going out the window and metal sparks flying because we were trying to cut off all the weight we could because we didn't want to kill this very expensive door the first day we had it. But it's still going.
Yeah, so the
15 years
Snapple
later.
machine is in the back. You step on this tile, slides open, and behind you is this incredible store. Here in LA, you have a similar concept, but it's more of a produce.
Yeah, it's an old. This is a produce distribution area.
Yeah.
And there are still produce warehouses behind us and next to us. And, and this building, as you can see on the wall, says onion sacks over there.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
When they scraped the paint up here, they found some really cool stuff, so we just left it.
No, it's very cool.
Yeah.
I remember when Alina, your wife, was
Yeah.
designing this whole stuff and found all the space. It's really cool.
Yeah.
So now let me ask you, let me ask you about your growth within those very important brands like Nike. So you said Nike became your account after 10 months, which is pretty incredible. And then I'm assuming everybody else follow up.
Everyone else we had pretty much locked down everyone else. There's a store, so a guy from Nike came into the store, and he was a very big, gruff guy. And in the front of the store, we used to have our graphic designers working. And there was
I remember.
a girl named Julia who was with me even before Bodega.
Yes.
Very talented designer and super nice woman. And she was working up front, and he started grilling her. What are you doing here? Who gave you Nikes? Blah, blah, blah. So she started crying, and she started yelling my name. And I came up, and I was like, who are you? What's going on? He said, I'm from Nike, and this and that. So I yelled downstairs, and I said, Dan, who have you been calling at Nike? And he said, some asshole named Frank. And this was Frank in front of me. So I was like, what's his phone number? And he rattled off his phone number because he'd been calling him every day for months. And he's like, I never got the messages. It was Nike. They were very busy, and they were, and there was it was an article in the Globe that came out basically right when we opened, and they sort of pivoted the article to talk about us.
Yeah.
And that's where he saw us, and he's like, where'd you get these Nikes? I'm like, it's my private collection. I can sell whatever I want.
Yeah.
And he made a couple threats and was very boisterous, and then eventually we started talking and became fast friends, and are still friends today.
And so did Nike really open the doors for the other brands? Was that
No,
really
we had most of
pivot?
the other brands. The other brands were a lot easier to get to, and we had most of them. And most of them, a lot of the footwear brands are based in Boston.
Yeah.
So it was pretty easy, and they wanted good representation in Boston. Converse and New Balance and Adidas at the time. And so the rest weren't very hard. Nike was the hard one.
Yeah.
But once we got in with Nike and had a great, unbelievable luck. Our first rep was a guy named Pete Mills, and then another guy named Randy Kinsley, and they were just super knowledgeable and great
Mhm.
guys,
Yeah.
and they sort of helped us and held our hand through the learning process. And
But
it was
let me
great.
ask you about innovation, because I think that obviously innovation is an important part of business development. I think there's, and particularly now, I think that that is one of those concepts that you constantly hear. But I think most people, in my opinion and my experience, most people are afraid of innovation and like how far you you step away from whatever is the norm of a specific
Right.
business. You stepped away in terms of retail in a territory that did not exist. This
Yeah.
idea, like you were saying earlier, idea that you have a store that doesn't have a website, doesn't have a phone number, doesn't
Yep.
have a street address.
Yep.
It's just what it is. You find it. If you find it, welcome. If you don't find it,
Yep.
next time.
It's the people who are into sneakers who have I used to go to New York when I was a kid and take the Chinatown bus down and go and try to find stuff you couldn't find in Boston and take it back and keep some of it, sell some of it, and that was my first sort of business. That sense of discovery of going to a
Mhm.
place before the internet,
Yeah.
the sense of discovery and going into different stores and different neighborhoods and finding different stuff, and it was so much fun.
Yeah.
And and to sort of have that sense of discovery and that sense of sort of childish wonderment where you walk
Yes.
into a space and you're like, where am I? What is going on right
Yeah.
now? It's such a great feeling. And everybody, you can get there with pretty much everybody. Some people are jaded, but most people, when they go through a sliding vending machine door and they didn't know it was there, and then they go
Yeah.
into the store, and it's really it's a great feeling.
Let me ask you a question, because I'm going to contextualize it within my own experience. So I do feel that in my own business, in real estate, I kind of like, I do my own thing. And I believe on following my instinct and doing it my way.
Yep.
And sometimes that doesn't make sense to a lot of people. And then eventually kind of like clicks. And I do know that because I like to do it my own way, sometimes things take a little bit longer to click. I am very proud of that. I feel like, if it's going to take, it's going to take, but I'm going to do it my way. Do you feel that innovation factor on setting up a retail store like Bodega at the time cost you time in terms of getting to where you needed to get business-wise?
It did, absolutely, but I think it was worth it.
It was worth it. That was
I think the one mistake that I made, and I argued, so I never wanted a website.
Mm-hmm.
And true Bodega fans will remember when we had a sort of a video that Oliver made, mostly a lot of it taken from the movie Heat, the Al Pacino movie Heat.
Mm-hmm.
And it was this loop that ran, and it was our website. And I had no information on it.
That was it?
And people
What
would
did it
stay.
say?
It was amazing. I'll find it. I'll see if I can
Uh-huh.
show it to you. But it was really like this fantastic loop.
I never seen it.
It was up for years.
Huh.
And I didn't want a website. And I wanted people to have the experience of coming into the store and having the hidden entrance and having the whole thing. And we eventually got to the point where we were making our own clothing, and it got to the point of either having to wholesale the clothing or sell it directly online.
Yeah.
And so the lesser of two evils was to have our own website.
Yeah.
Fast forward to now, it's the majority of our business, as it is
Yes.
almost every retailer.
Yes.
And we could have had a much earlier start.
Yes, exactly. If you did the adaptation a little bit
fight
earlier.
so
yes.
hard.
Oh, no, I hear you.
But I really thought the connection with the consumer was more important than just the transactional part of the business.
And do you think that uniqueness was also a way of relating better with some of your vendors? So what you call like a Nike or a New Balance? Or
A little
do you think
bit.
they value that? Or?
I mean, they value both. They value the special nature of the experience, but they also do value sales numbers.
Yes, of course.
So it's a little
Yeah.
of both. So they would like you. They want it all.
Yeah.
And we want to give them as close as we can.
But I feel that you also gave a lot of opportunity to brands that now, I think you were the first place that I ever saw, let's say, engineer garments. I never saw engineer
There was a
garments
great
except
store
for
in
you.
Cambridge. I'm going to blank on the name. I want to say Clearwater. He had engineered garments in
Okay.
Boston first.
Okay.
And he was a great store.
Yeah.
But very few people, I mean, like,
Yeah, because
but
that was my
we introduced a
introduction.
lot of brands to Boston.
A lot
for
of
sure.
Japanese brands
A lot
in
of
particular
Japanese
made it through you
brands.
first.
Absolutely.
Because that was, I remember just going there for
Absolutely.
that, being just amazed
God.
at those things.
Yeah.
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 And something that I want to talk to you about is your collaborations.
Yeah.
Because I do feel that, again, collaborations right now they happen, but 16 years ago, they were not necessarily
No.
something that was, but you were at the forefront of those
Yeah.
collaborations.
Our
How
first
did
one
that
was
came to be?
we had friends from Converse, and we had an idea of doing something a little different. And we had two designers, Randy and Marvin, who worked in the front of the store, who were best friends and fantastic designers, both of them. And they did this. The first shoe was called Beef Jerky.
Mm-hmm.
One of the coolest pieces, the packaging was amazing. It was in a package that looked like beef jerky. The shoe itself was the most uncomfortable shoe. I cut the shit out of everyone's heel who wore it. Like it was we had a lot to learn.
Yeah.
But the packaging was great and the concept was good, and we just that's what we were really working on.
Yeah.
It took us a little while to put the whole package
Yes,
together
yeah.
where the shoe was actually comfortable
Yeah.
and nice, and but it's so much fun, and it's such a great creative experience to be like, okay, here's our model of shoes. Pick one you like, pick
Yeah.
some materials you like and concept you like, and put the whole thing together. It's
Yeah.
great. It's a
And
lot
so
of
you
fun.
feel that from a consumer perspective, those early collaborations made sense, or you think people were like, "What is
They
going
did
on?"
too, but the footwear audience was a fraction of what it is today.
Well, but think about it. When you started, like if you wanted sneakers, you went to the store,
Yeah.
or you went to a Foot Locker. Like
Yeah.
you really didn't think of it as a.
But the guys who were like
you were the cutting edge
collectors,
of it being a
Right.
fashion element.
Right.
They were more practical in some ways.
our
you know?
guys, there was the market that there is today was just a tiny market,
Yeah.
and it was like they were
Yeah.
the best.
Yeah.
We used to have the guys who would wait online for stuff for releases and stuff like that, it was a real community.
Yes.
And guys would look out for other guys and save their spot in line, and there were very few issues. Only later in the process there were issues when it gets bigger, and you know, but it's a really nice community of people who are generally more positive than negative, which a lot of communities, especially online communities, it's tough to say.
Yeah. I think
But
you need more of this.
I think you need more.
Do
of
you? I've been drinking it. Wait.
that.
Oh my
That's
God!
true.
You know I'm heavy-handed when I get.
I know you're heavy.
Oh my God! Look at that.
Jesus.
Jeez.
What are you doing?
I'm telling you, it's
I haven't
just,
had any food.
it's in my nature.
I know it is.
So, but let me ask you a question about, because we're talking about collaborations, and I've been actually meaning to ask you this for a while. I feel like a lot of particularly luxury brands, right, have in some way co-opted
No
the
question.
sneaker game. Like, listen, I'm guilty
you
because I
go-
love them.
Well, if you
But
go to
you know,
Louis
like, I love
Vuitton-
my Hermes sneakers, but
Of
like
course,
Hermes has
you-
nothing to do with
No,
sneakers.
but if you go there,
love
it's
them. They're
hard to
gorgeous.
find shoes. They are almost exclusively sneakers.
But let me ask you, yeah, seriously, I cannot find shoes anymore. I used to go to
I know.
any brand
You
and
can-
find a
it's
beautiful
hard-
pair of
it's-
work shoes. I
it's
cannot. Or like find
very, very hard.
What effect has that had on?
It's a different
like,
market.
business?
It's had an effect, but it's not the luxury brands do amazing stuff, but the streetwear brands and the Nikes of the world, there's a long history, and it's these. This is a great example. This is an Air Max 87 or Air Max 1, as a lot of people call it. So it came out in 1987. It was a performance running shoe.
Yeah.
It was a marathon running shoe. These poor people. I mean,
Yeah,
I think
seriously.
I feel for like the NBA players
Yeah,
who played
yeah.
in Converse.
That were
I'm like,
actually-
I can't walk down the street like with these. Like, but they were. I mean, the technology of the air bubble and everything else was revolutionary. This was
Yeah.
an amazing comfort jump.
Yeah.
It turned into a fashion shoe, and no one's running the marathon in Air Max 1s.
Yeah, no.
But it's that history and that legacy that the fashion brands have none of, because they jumped into this market in the last 10 years, 15 years, and some of their models are good, and they've hired some serious designers.
Yeah, and they're beautiful.
It's very over-branded.
Yes, a
and
lot
it's
of them are, yes.
specific customer base.
But what I'm trying to get is, do you think that has cut in the willingness of, let's say, Nike to do more collaborations? Because I remember that beautiful collaboration of like Missoni and Nike and like
Converse.
and Converse. That was
They did amazing.
gorgeous shoes.
They did the
The
Hockman Racer, that runner.
Converse
that
and
was one of my
Margiela.
all-time
Remember the
favorites.
Margiela
Yeah,
that
of
used
course.
to
They
peel?
scratch away. The
Those
peel
were
away.
beautiful. You
Yeah,
don't see
incredible.
them anymore. You
No.
think that because now these brands
They're
are doing
doing it
their own
themselves.
stuff, it's
Yeah.
impeding this kind of like creative process. And
A little bit. I think there's some up and coming brands that are going to be the next level it's hard to break into the fashion side, do the high level fashion side.
Yeah.
These guys have been there forever and they have a lock on that market.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
there are some interesting brands that are going to work with the Nike and Adidas of the
Yes.
world. So
Yeah. Where do you see a lot of the innovation in your field coming from?
I think the next couple years it'll be from the smaller brands.
Mhm.
So right now,
American brands, or do you think it's
no,
more of an international
no, it's
thing?
international. So um, if you look at Hoka or On Running out of Switzerland, or um, and American brands too, but I think obviously Adidas is Germany, and Puma is originally Germany, and there's not a lot of American. Converse is American,
Yeah.
Nike's American, but there's not a lot. But I think if you look at some of the smaller brands, there's been a big shakeup over the last few years during COVID of a lot of high level creatives, sort of similar to the tech world.
Mhm.
A lot of Google and Facebook people, a lot of Nike and Adidas people have spread out to these small brands. And I think you're going to see some really interesting things coming out of these smaller brands over the next year to 2 years,
Mhm.
because they're giving them a lot of leeway with what they can do,
Yeah.
because they trust them. They were, senior Nike designers. Saw a line in Paris. It was a subline. It's a Reebok line called LTD.
Hmm.
I forget what they stands for. They had a thing.
Okay.
But the lead designer for that was a very high Nike designer,
Yeah.
and is doing projects with some really amazing people. And it was just one of the best product lines from Reebok I've ever seen, because he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
He has a team. He put together a team that all know what they're doing. They have a long history with Reebok, and they let them go nuts because
Yes.
they've proven themselves.
Yes. Yes.
So I think you're going to see that from a lot of places.
Huh. It's what you. So I'm gonna go back to now your own business, your own experience, because again, this is about talking about that the back end. What do you think, in retrospect, has been your biggest challenge as you continue to grow and define your business and what you're doing?
I think you get to a point where you're not a tiny independent, but you're competing with literally billion-dollar multinational companies. So you want to get a little bit bigger to
Yeah.
fight them, but the bigger you get, the less agile you are, and it's not a novel problem to this industry. I think you grow to a certain level and you really have some pretty serious growing pains.
Mm-hmm.
Ours was more of a back end issue than a front end issue. Our creative's great, our presentation's great, but the actual fulfillment of orders and doing that once you get to a certain level gets really hard.
Yeah.
So I think we've made the changes we need to make to get around it, but it's hard to grow consistently.
Yeah. Do you think that a bodega could be created right now? Like,
I do.
or do you think that 16 years ago was just the perfect time for it? Do you think
It would be hard to do right now. We got very lucky in that after we opened, it was an okay market when we opened, and then it got to be a great market for a couple of years, and we had a couple really good years before the first real dip.
Yeah.
And it was a very serious dip, but we were lucky enough to have those good years under our belts. If you expanded and opened a couple new stores and picked up a bunch of high-end lines, and the market takes a dip, you're out of luck.
Yes,
Like you have a
yes.
lot of money
Yeah,
out
yes.
there.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of it has to do with timing.
Huh.
And we're seeing a bit of a reorg in the whole industry right now, where footwear's struggling a little bit and apparel's doing really well.
Yeah.
And it's usually the other way around. It has been the other way around the last few years.
Yeah.
But we're lucky enough to have a very strong footwear and apparel stable. that
Yeah.
we can
No, it's
clean up.
amazing. Every time that I walk into any of your stores, I have a problem. I literally changed my entire outfit. I shop here in a second. So. So let me kind of like before we pivot into another kind of like topic. How can I put this? Kind of like a cheesy question, but is there anything that you will advise your younger self, yourself 16 years ago, as to how to build this? And I think that that's interesting for people who are watching and that are thinking about doing something that is truly, because you broke the mold, right? You created an entire footprint for a business that now we take it for granted, but it was pretty darn
You know,
innovative.
I think if I knew what I know now, I probably wouldn't go into retail. It's a
Yep.
very tough business. So I'm glad that I didn't know because I
Hmm.
love it. I love it. I love the connection with the consumer. I love the camaraderie with the staff. I very much enjoy this business.
Yeah.
And I am very lucky to come here to work every day.
Yes.
I mean, it's a very special place, and
Yeah.
it's a lot of fun.
Yes. Yes. And you have
and
a
so
great team.
we have
I
a
know
great
you have
team.
great partners, but your team, the people that work with
We have a
you,
great
for
team.
you are
We have a
incredible.
great team.
They really
and
are.
we have a really good time. And
Boston here and
Yeah.
throughout the years. Really,
totally,
really amazing
I
people.
totally agree. And it's
Yeah.
been an absolute joy to work with.
No, you have a great culture, a great culture
It's been a lot
in
of
your
fun.
company.
It really has been a lot of fun. And there's certainly industries where I could have made more money and could have done different things.
Yeah.
I don't think I could have done another business where I would have had as much fun.
Would you do this differently if you had a chance?
I would have overall no.
Mhm.
I think a lot of the mistakes we made, thankfully all non-fatal, were part of the growing process.
Yeah.
I think it's
Yeah, yes.
you have to sort of go through it. And
Yeah.
we've made a lot, and it's been a long and stressful road.
Yeah.
But so what? Everything worthwhile is. I don't think
Yes,
that's
it
a
is,
bad
of
thing.
course.
I'm
You got to
not-
spend the time, you have the patience to grow it.
And I'm
Everything
here
needs to
drinking
be.
tequila with you, so
Here we go. We made
Something
it.
went
We made
right.
this far. Well, you made it this far.
you made
Cheers.
it this far.
So now let's pivot into other things. Real estate. So we lost you to Boston.
Still on the Cape.
You're still on the Cape, but we lost you to Boston.
Yes.
We got you here in LA, which we get to visit you,
Yep.
and then we get you back into Truro, into the Cape, which is a fantastic home. I think it's been incredible for you and for
Yeah.
Alina,
been
particularly with I
Yeah.
call him the baby. He's not a
Yeah.
baby
He's
anymore.
not baby anymore.
With little monkey.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great for
What
him.
has been about? How has that been? Because I think that in my business, I always argue that it goes beyond the transaction and it's beyond the square footage. It's about how people live. Have you really experienced that in terms of? Because I
think,
love working with you guys every single
for
time.
him, for Leo, who's 6, to have that massive outdoor space and
Yeah.
just everywhere, and he's just a little boy,
Yeah.
turning over rocks, finding
The
bugs, and,
cutest thing in the world.
running around with the dogs and
Yeah.
swimming, and it's going to the beach, and it's great.
Yeah.
It's great. It's
Yeah.
such a nice place to be able to go to.
Yeah.
He's got a great life here in LA. He has all crazy activities. Every day is a different
Yeah.
activity. Today was skateboarding
I love
after
it.
school.
He does so many things like
He does
soccer,
so many things.
skateboarding.
Yeah, every day.
My
Every
gosh.
day is something. But he's learning the ukulele.
Oh my God,
He's
I
taking
love
doing
that.
basketball. He's got a Japanese class after one day. He's got something every day. Like
Yeah.
the kid's
Yeah.
busy. But having the house in Truro was a godsend for us. It's great.
It truly was. What a
And we get to
blessing.
see you. We get to see the people we care about
Yeah.
without having to live in Boston.
Yeah. No. Oh, what was that? That was shady, you Boston guy. You're gonna regret this.
I am gonna regret that. I
We
love
gotta-
Boston.
We gotta
All
cut
right.
this coming.
Yeah, we are. Wait, time. Too much tequila. I love Boston. I love
Yeah.
Boston, and I always will. But it's LA's been. It's such a massive city.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting, and there's people from everywhere, and as people from Boston will admit to, it's a small city.
Yes, it
It's a
is.
small city,
Yes,
and it's
it is.
lovely. And there's things about Boston I miss terribly. I'm a diehard Celtics and Patriots fan, and watch every Celtics game, every single one.
Okay.
I have an account in Boston with a friend of mine who signs in, so I can watch every Celtics game. And I miss the walkability of Boston more than anything else.
Yeah,
I
yes.
love that.
Yeah. Yeah. it is
All
a good-
winter, all summer.
But when
I
you're
walk
here in
every- I
LA,
walk
you get to
everywhere.
do that.
I do a
Where
little
you
bit,
live,
but
you get
not
to.
like Boston.
Well, no,
I mean, it's
yes.
great,
Yeah.
and it's a beautiful city.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful city.
I agree.
I miss the
agree.
South
I love
End
it.
most of all. The South End was really a very special neighborhood for a bunch of years. I had a lot of friends. I would just run into random people on the street on the way home from work, go get a drink, go get dinner. Just those random run-ins where
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be planned. It's
Yeah.
really nice.
No, you're right. I do love this city because it's an ever-changing city. I think a lot of cities get stuck in like their little vibe, and then
Yeah.
you see it actually around the country. Some cities that are just not going anywhere. And
Boston's had a good run the last 20 years.
but you
Remember
know,
the food used to not be so good in Boston
my
and
God,
everything
we
else?
have
The
beautiful
food's incredible
food.
now. There's
Yeah,
a ton of
the
good
whole thing.
spots.
And I do think that in terms of like I think about my own experience, and I think you know when I came to Boston 30 something years ago, and what it was then and what it is right now
It's a
in terms
drastic
of
change.
opportunities, a huge drastic change.
Totally.
I would say that again, I've been this now for 19 years, and it hasn't been necessarily the easiest ride, but like we were talking earlier, I done it my way. I've done it, you know, with my own flavor. But the city has been there to embrace that, and so I will always be grateful and thankful to the city and friends and clients and everybody that's part of the
Yeah.
whole thing, because it's been an extraordinary ride. And so,
I miss walking through Beacon Hill in the winter. That's one of my favorite things in the world.
no, it's
When the
such a
snow's
pretty
coming
city.
down, you walk walking
Yeah,
through Beacon
so
Hill.
you
it's
could
like,
go right now. It's like
it's
20
special.
degrees.
All right.
All you have to do is take a
Can I
puff
wait
in.
till April?
You don't miss it that
I'm
much.
soft now. It's 75 and sunny today.
So now I know I've taken like a long time. How long have we been chatting for? I always lose 40 minutes. Oh my God.
goodness.
Jesus, you talk too much, JJ. But I'm going to ask
I'm
you
done.
my last question, which is usually like a standard question.
Do I believe in ghosts?
Mm.
No.
I know you do. So, no, the question is what, you know, after everything that you've gone through, the business you have created, all this stuff, what do you think is the key to success?
I think the key is just trying. I think the key is just getting out there and you know, Josh and I used to talk about it. My
What is
brother,
that? Just do it?
sort of just do it. But we used to talk about not even if you don't know what you want to do, if you can take baby steps to go in that direction,
Mm-hmm.
then you'll, you know, because my friends and the people who you know, they knew I wanted to do something, you know, fashion related. I didn't know it was going to be this.
Yeah.
But I was working in a plastics factory in Kentucky at the time. You know, I was very far away from this.
Yeah.
And Josh, my twin brother, was just encouraging me to make baby steps in this
Yeah.
direction.
Yeah.
So I think you don't have to put a ton of pressure on yourself. It doesn't have to be all at once.
Yeah.
But if you have a feeling of which direction you want to go, start moving in that
I
direction.
agree with you. I agree with you. You know, whenever I talk to like new agents, or even when I talk to the agents that work with me, my question is always, where do you see your business or yourself in the next 5 or 10 years? And I said, I'm not asking you how you're going to get there. I'm just
Right.
asking, where do you see yourself? Because I think that brings clarity. Obviously, it's never going to be a linear.
It never happens. the
It's
way you
going to be
plan.
A to Z, but it's not going to be A, B, C,
Right.
D. It's going to be A to Z to B to
Right.
F to
Totally.
R, whatever.
Totally.
But as long as you get to that point, that's what I think makes the difference in
Yep.
terms of attaining that success.
I think the other thing is to surround yourself with good people
Yes. Yes.
like you.
Yes. Well, I don't know about that, but yes.
Like you.
I agree. But JJ, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I really appreciate, again, you
Not at
taking
all.
the time. Now you guys know why I love this guy so much, and now we know why he's so successful. So cheers to you, JJ.
Cheers.
And we'll see you in the next episode. Salud.
Salud.